Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the movie The Marvels. So, I've decided to wait pretty much for movies to come out, and I'm kind of glad that I did with this one, because I got to watch this in the comfort of my own home, and 4K, it looked really nice on the TV that we've got with it. And we were able to put like subtitles and everything, and this is a mess. Now, in my kind of scaling of MCU movies and shows, it is not the bottom. Alright, it has issues and problems, and we're going to get into it, but it has not dethroned Black Widow and Spider-Man No Way Home in my ranking of those as the worst. Of course, Thor Dark World has its problems. There are kind of issues with Iron Man 3, other kind of ones as well. I mean, the forgettability of the Incredible Hulk, and then, of course, everything that kind of goes on with the shows. But this was a mess throughout the whole thing because of how many characters there are, and kind of, if you would think that this would be a Captain Marvel movie, but she takes up the least amount of screen time and somehow has less of a character in this movie than she did in her first one. This made the first one better for me because it actually focused on Carol's character, though there were some attempts mainly linking her up with Monica Rambeau, and they don't call her Blue Marvel or Photon or anything. I mean, we have Ms. Marvel in here, trying to, like, workshop names like Professor Marvel and shit like that. The best characters in here are Ms. Marvel and Nick Fury, which is really kind of weird. So, supposedly being centered with Carol Danvers, this movie does not do her really any justice. And it really is kind of all over the place. Literally. And even with that, with all of those problems, Ms. Marvel and Nick Fury and Ms. Marvel's parents actually kind of carry a lot of this stuff kind of going on. And then we get some stuff with kind of teases and everything towards the end. So we start off and we see this Dar-Ben chick who's got this like hammer kind of like Ronin looking for something, and she finds pretty much a secondary bracelet like Ms. Marvel's, Kamala Khan's, which is kind of weird because you're like, why the fuck is that in space? I thought she's got this from her grandmother, and it even starts fucking with the kind of shows as well. Now, granted, you pretty much get your primer of what happened, well, not completely everything that happens in Ms. Marvel, but enough to be like, this is her powers, everything that kind of happened, because the tease at the end of Ms. Marvel led to like the whole power kerfuffle thing that we get throughout this whole movie, which really gets irritating after its first introduction. But we get her kind of introduction, everything kind of worked up, and it's just like, oh, okay. It even gets to the point where I'm like, you don't even need to watch the Ms. Marvel show to get the value add of everything that's kind of going on here. The only things they chop out are pretty much her being a mutant and having that done, so I don't know if they're retconning that out or whatnot. I hope they're kind of retconning Secret Invasion, because if you watch Secret Invasion and then this one, they are completely different Nick Furies at this point, and I hope that they kind of jettison that one, because they made too OP of a character in there. Even though I like Emilia Clarke and I want her in the MCU, they essentially made her into almost a god kind of at this point with all the powers that she's got from that show. So, but we kind of see this Dar-Ben person who's pretty much trying to find these kind of band things, and everything kind of goes like funky. Like, you don't learn about this stuff until later on, and you're like, what? Because it really gets nutty. Supposedly these bands are supposed to be like important for some kind of reason, and then we see Carol kind of like fucking around, tooling around, pretty much being space cop, which you're in the Marvel universe. The Nova Corps being like space cops and Carol Danvers being like a space cop, that just fucking... This could have been like a buddy cop space thing I mean, we already had the buddy cop kind of thing with her and Nick Fury. I mean, it worked in that movie. And it could have been kind of this as well. But they had to, like, pare down her shit. I don't even know. It really didn't do a good job for her. So she's like, Nick Fury's like, hey, can you kind of check this shit out? Because he's at Saber. Because they're trying to look... Because evidently she was able to use... Dar-Benn was able to use this gauntlet thingy to create a new jump point in the jump network, which isn't adequately kind of explained at all. It just kind of goes MacGuffin spaghetti spew at the point where it's like, okay. And we've got like some weird shit going on near the Earth one, so Nick Fury... and of course... and then we see Captain Rambo be like, I'm gonna go and touch that thing with my powers. They literally make the people too damn fucking stupid in this. Like, it almost goes to the point of Alien Covenant, which I did my review of that, where that is like the dumbest smart people you would ever see because the plot kind of demands this stuff. They don't completely get to that level because the repercussions don't completely come to bite these people in the ass. But it's essentially like, she's going to go touch this whole thing, and Carol, of course, goes and fuck around with that, and that, of course, for some reason, gets their powers entangled. It's never really adequately explained why, other than their powers are all pretty much light-based, and because Carol and Rambo, sure, but there's no true kind of explanation of why this would entangle their powers. So... they're just, like, fucked up. They kind of get, like, jerked around to different places, which really gets fucking annoying when they're doing kind of fight scenes and everything. It's like, oh, God, because we kind of get to that. Fury's like, who the fuck are you? Kamala Khan's like, is this an Avengers thing? And it's just like, yeah, you're good. Like, she's a super Uber fan, so I'm fine with her kind of stuff. I can understand how that will annoy people, depending upon their kind of tolerance level for it, but... honestly, I would pretty much act the same way as her. Not probably to the degree. I'd be like, ah, shit, man. She's like the next kind of couple levels up. But they're trying to figure out what's going on. They actually bring up, we get a whole kind of fight scene that's going on because Carol decides to go after Dar-Benn and is fighting people in their ship. But we don't, for some reason... using their powers initiates a jump. However, this is never completely consistent with what kind of threshold of power usage initiates person foot. Like, Carol sometimes does some blast or some kind of feat of super strength that you would think would trigger it, but doesn't. Same with Kamala being able to utilize her hard light powers, and Photon just... Monica Rambeau is essentially relegated to the X-Men tease at the end. Like, she barely really does anything and just essentially goes, you were Aunt Carol, you left my ass alone. It's like, I kind of went and killed the Supreme Intelligence, which evidently that led to a civil war, and they all blame Carol for that kind of stuff. And granted, I understand the Civil War taking out resources from Hala and all that kind of stuff. But their son's also dying. Having a Civil War doesn't automatically lead to your son dying. Otherwise, we'd have been fucked long ago. Like the immediate... we would have been fucked long ago. I'm like, what? Like, other resources, kind of get... because... we get into it, and we see that Dar-Benn is trying to pretty much make nice with the Skrulls on this refugee kind of planet. However, her whole thing is... I can't believe I'm saying this. The whole crux of the Hala Kree thing is essentially Spaceballs. And I'm not talking about some weird movie where Spaceballs are floating in the air. I'm talking about Mel Brooks' Spaceballs, where they essentially use the jump things to create, like, mega-made holes to suck the air off of this one planet, the water off of this other planet, and the Earth's sun to somehow recharge their sun. I almost think that Mel Brooks should take some kind of legal action or something. I mean, the thing is, they play it straight as fuck, and I'm like, this is Spaceballs. Why did this... What? Who greenlit this movie? I saw it happening, and I'm like, this is Spaceballs. They're essentially President Screwbin this motherfucker. And just like, this is your literal plan. And then she's like, take out the masks and breathe. We're getting water and shit. We're getting this. I'm like, you have this advanced technology. I don't expect everybody to be an expert on things, okay? Both Marvel lore, which, granted, is fuckity-doo-dah, fuckity-day going on now. But just because you take energy from a star and, like, fling it at it, what kind of shittery do you do? Because Carol killed the Supreme Intelligence, is like, you're free, and then everyone was like, woo, bakayoo, and just fucking going nuts. But we don't even see that. And another kind of issue I got with this is, I understand that in the first movie they put that, like, not all the Kree are blue. But we barely even see any blue Kree in this. Just some that are just randomly out there. I almost think that they just didn't want to utilize the blue makeup and everything, which, granted, I can understand, but that really fucks with the lore of the Kree Empire and all that shit. I'm like, what the fuck? So, we see that whole kind of stuff in action. We see Ms. Marvel trying to help the kind of Skrull refugees as they're getting kind of like sucked up into the vortex and everything, but Carol's like, we save who we can. They pretty much do their kind of little training montage of understanding the powers and everything. Kamala kind of freaking out and everything and getting her whole kind of thing with Captain Marvel. We learned that her band is a quantum band, which I had normally kind of pegged more with Quasar, but evidently I looked into it and it's linked with Quasar, another superhero, but also the Kree and Captain Marvel. And evidently, for some reason, these things are used to make the jump network, the space travel kind of thing. Evidently, the hammer's the universal weapon. I like that Kamala dropped the whole thing with the Cosmorod, which is, there's like a cosmic control rod that's linked with a nihilist. But I'm just like, okay, so then they decide to go to the water planet, which, oh my god, this is where we get into other kind of shit. There's three kind of major things. Mainly the Spaceballs thing, this water planet where everybody just pretty much talks in song and everything. And they're not even really good. I don't mind musical numbers, as long as I kind of know what I'm getting at. It's like Disney movies. I don't really have a problem with them. I know what I'm kind of getting into. These were just done as kind of a lark, and it's just like, please, God, let this fucking be over. And then we get random costume changes as well. Carol turning into like a kind of dress version of her suit. That was actually pretty cool. But I'm like, this is just getting fucking tedious. Can we kind of get on with this? And then we get towards the end, and the jump network stability is getting fucked up because they're open 3 more holes that are just open all the time, and it's fucked up the Saber Station, and Fury has to deal with that, and that then links up with the others at the end after Carol and them get fucked over by Dar-Ben as she's taking the water, and they decide to shoot out because they can't really fight her. For some reason, Dar-Ben is able to like do shit with the quantum band, which doesn't make any sense because it's mainly been talked about as this jump network thing, but it can also like absorb energy and also make Dar-Ben strong enough to take fucking hits and shit from like Captain Marvel and Photon, Captain Rambo. I mean, Ms. Marvel's not a slouch either, but she's not on the powerhouse level at this point that Carol Danvers is and what Monica can be. So they kind of have their kind of thing. Carol talks about how she wanted to help the Kree, and then Monica's like, oh, so that's why he didn't come back. Well, why don't you just restart their sun? Oh, okay. And then it's like, you didn't think about this for 30 fucking years? What the fuck? Whatever. And then she makes that promise and eventually does it. However, at this point, everything's kind of going nutty-doo-dah. They go back to Saber to kind of see what's kind of going on. Let's see. And somehow, on the water planet, this evidently, Carol Danvers is a princess there, marriage of convenience, and they are introduced as the Marvels, which doesn't make any sense because nobody would have known that they were calling themselves that, except Kamala, who put that forth on a thing. It's like, whatever. So she goes there to try and we see that Dar-Benn pretty much goes to Earth to try and take the sun shit. And while this is going on, Kamala's parents are on Saber, and they are finding weird little fucking things. And evidently, Goose somehow is reproducing, and they're all flirking cat things. And the jump point energy shit that's going on has knocked out enough of the escape pods that they don't have enough for everybody on board. So their idea is to have the Flurkins consume most of the crew and then load up the escape pods with the Flurkins. A main chunk of this movie deals with them literally hurting CGI cats to eat people, to save them from this thing. Again, I don't know how this was greenlit. I don't know how this was done. I mean, Nick Fury and Kamala pretty much talking and having stuff over the intercom being like, let the Flurkins eat you. Like, there's on some level that this would have worked. And it would have been funny and it would have been okay. But it takes up enough time and enough real estate in this movie that it shouldn't be doing. That I'm like, this shouldn't be happening. Why would somebody allow this to happen? There's a scenario where this works in the Marvels movie that everybody's working on tilt, everybody's working, and it's like, oh, okay. It's just, they literally herd cats. That is a plot point. And even though these things are here, I still do not believe this to be the worst Marvel movie. It's not good, but Black Widow barely even, it doesn't even really justify itself. Spider-Man No Way Home. Oh, the repercussions that have... I understand why it was done that way, mainly on the Marvel front because of Sony. But it still doesn't excuse it. Alright. This mainly just did a good job of at least introducing more people to Kamala Khan. And hopefully being like, okay, maybe we should... it honestly makes me like, okay, you should have just, instead of doing the stupid show, you should have just actually made a movie for her. And then kind of gone with it that way. So they get to Dar-Benn. She takes Kamala's bracelet, breaks their entanglement. It's like, I'm gonna use this shit! And then essentially disintegrates of alright, whatever. And rips a hole into an alternate reality. That's happening a lot because of this being the multiverse saga. And they then decide to give the bands back to Kamala and supercharge Photon to then close the hole. And she'll be stuck on the other side. And Carol tries to save her, but she closes it, and they're sad about it. They link up with everybody back on Earth, Fury, Kamala's parents. They have Carol pretty much goes, reignites Hala's sun. She kind of goes back to Earth to kind of look over Monica's place. And Kamala's parents are helping and everything. Kamala's family and Kamala herself really were the best kind of parts. Oh, okay. And we then see Carol kind of help her kind of fly kind of thing. So then we get two scenes. One is Kamala pretty much doing her best kind of Nick Fury impression and essentially kind of teasing a kind of team up of the Young Avengers, which is kind of different than the kind of comics, but I mean, she goes to Kate Bishop, which was nice to kind of see her from the Hawkeye show, and her being like, yeah, I'm putting together a team. She's like, how'd you get that? That's not important because she's got this whole kind of thing, and she's like, yeah, we could do an Avengers kind of thing. Ant-Man's got a daughter and all that, and we've also got... that works because she's stature. She was on the Young Avengers in the comics. Eli Bradley, who is the grandson of Isaiah Bradley, who we've seen in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, gets powers as well. He is essentially the Cap analog. If you wanted to go with that, you could go that route. Morgan Stark, I think, is too young at this point. However, I don't know how the timelines are going at this point because it's all fuckity doo-dah. But, Harley Keener? Yes. Could be like Iron Lad, their Iron Man kind of thing. So, that was kind of the best kind of thing. I was like, oh, okay. And then we get the tease at the end that Monica, oh, she thinks she's talking with her mom, but she's in an alternate reality that's got the X-Men and a more comics accurate Beast being like, yeah, you're in a parallel universe kind of thing. And Monica's like, oh, shit. Because she's like, oh, my mom. But she's the character binary. So it's like, okay, that... I don't know why we had it. And we had kind of a more, the X-Men kind of accurate. We don't know how this kind of works out, how we're going to get the, we're probably going to get everything kind of, I think that the multiverse should have kind of happened at the kind of final phase before a complete reboot, but I understand why Marvel probably chose this route with the multiverse to try and jam everything together to get a cohesive universe from all the rights that they've got and reacquired, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's mainly the execution that has been really getting fuckity-doo-dah. The thing is, we don't know what the kind of status is of Kang is going to be, especially since I think the character is definitely worth salvaging. I know that Jonathan Majors has been removed from that, and, I mean, you can just recast him. However, they might be turning more and doing a kind of more accurate Secret Wars 2015 with Doom, doing all different kinds of things with the multiverse and then kind of reforming a universe. So we'll kind of have to see how that works out. Bringing over the X-Men, Fantastic Four, hopefully doing another kind of Ghost Rider thing because, I mean, they fucking shit on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I mean, we saw Johnny Blaze in there, but briefly, and we saw Robbie Reyes. I mean, come on. So, I would only just really recommend this to seeing Ms. Marvel's kind of whole kind of spiel in this, and because it does a good job of showcasing her and her earnestness and her want to be a hero and to help people. She really locks in and does a very good job in this. You can tell how much of a fan she is because she really commits to it. And I don't think anybody else does a completely horrible job. It's just Carol Danvers isn't really given much to work with, and neither is Monica. I mean, Fury, we get better, like, old school kind of Fury with all the kind of weird shit that he's dealing with. It's like, alright, cool. Kamala, Fury, alright. It just, and there are the bones of a good movie here that just aren't executed properly. I just can't believe I watched it and I'm like, holy fucking shit, this is Spaceballs. And not ironically, like, not even understanding it, I'm like, fuck. Now, I did like the tease mainly for the Young Avengers, and I don't mind the one for the X-Men, especially, like, with Beast. I'm like, okay, cool. I just think it needed to be executed better, and to have Monica be better than just to be that tease. She deserves better than that. As a character, it's like, come on. So, I can definitely understand people being like, not having a good time with this. I didn't have a good time with this, even though there are parts that I enjoyed and I think are worth it. I don't know what they would really be doing that you could pretty much just skip it and be fine, to be honest with you. I don't really like saying that. Like, I would like it where everything's of a good quality and everything kind of adds connectiveness and just value with it. But it's just like, And I could totally understand people having that kind of view on certain kind of other Marvel movies as well. I mean, I don't think my time was completely wasted, but there were definitely time-wasting things in there. Like, it's not like I'm like, I want my time back, motherfucker. I'm like, okay, you should have been able to do this better, but I've watched other things where I'm like, nope, that was a waste of time. Fuck off. So we'll have to see kind of where this goes. I would be interested if we got maybe like a Young Avengers show. Like, I do think there's potential there. I would take at best a Young Avengers movie, because I think these characters deserve it. That's the biggest kind of one that I'm alright with that I'm excited with at the moment. The Beast one was nice. I was glad to see him more kind of comics accurate, more kind of show accurate, kind of big, burly, and all that. We'll have to see how Monica potentially gets back to the main universe. We'll have to see how that kind of works out. Otherwise, they fucked her over in WandaVision, and now they fucked her over here. So it's like, all right. So hopefully we'll see what kind of works out with the kind of rest of the MCU slate. Deadpool and Wolverine will be out in July, so I'm pretty much going to be waiting for the 4K to kind of pop off and see how that kind of works out. I've seen the trailer and I'm like, all right, this looks interesting. Interesting, especially with like bringing in the TVA into the main kind of movie universe as we've seen, and seeing how Deadpool and Wolverine kind of work with that. If we kind of link up Deadpool with this, because the Wolverine costume that we've seen linked up with this movie is more of the comic/show accurate one as well. And since we've seen a Beast with that kind of accuracy, I'm wondering if this is the same kind of Wolverine from this kind of universe that Monica's trapped in. That's pretty much why I bring that up. So we'll have to see how this kind of goes. I do know that they're reconfiguring and reconfiguring what's kind of going on with the MCU at this point. So we'll just definitely have to see how that kind of like works out. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.